agree.
Siri not available. Discuss.
In lieu of Open Book Festival 2018, we brought together a pair of authors and asked them to dispel a few myths. In this episode, we have non-fiction authors Haji Mohamed Dawjee and Rebecca Davis.
Right, great.
Debunking myths about being a woman. Okay, here we go. Women's empowerment comes at the expense of men. Discuss.
Yeah, shame. It's really unfortunate jokes. I don't think it comes at the expense of men, because then I think the opposite is true, which it actually is. I think men's empowerment comes at the expense of women, and it has done for a long time.
Well, my question is, so what? So what? So what if women's empowerment comes at the expense
Yeah, I
of men?
agree with you. I think it is about time. And I think, when we talk about the expense of men, it doesn't have to be like particularly like unfortunate or like abusive or like the opposite of misogyny or whatever that is. I think it is just time that men take a bit of a back seat.
Yeah. Warren Buffett said that the reason he'd been so successful in his career was because he'd only been competing against 50% of the population.
Yeah.
So if we're entering a situation where the Warren Buffetts now have to compete against the full population, I mean, I guess in some sense that is coming at the cost of men. But I mean, if the result is that women finally get a chance to compete equally, then, I don't really think we should be calculating the equation in terms of the cost.
I mean, I find it quite ironic that the quote that you mentioned was by a white man. Just saying.
Why is that, Haji?
Because...
My dad's a white man.
Yeah, I mean, that's your problem. But I mean, I'm just saying that if the roles were reversed and if women were empowered, we'd have more quotes like that by women.
I mean, obvious. I think it's very hard at this stage of history to muster up any tears about the possibility that men might have to come to terms with, not experiencing the automatic entitlement they have to power, to positions of leadership.
Yeah,
and
and
so forth.
answering a question like that in the affirmative also just puts women in the role of needing to take care of like male tears and like male fragility and that kind of thing.
Right,
And
I feel like
we're not babysitters.
No, it shouldn't be incumbent on us to assuage men's fears that equality will mean that they lose some stuff. That's the definition of equality, that it's equal. So
Yes.
yeah, you're not going to get all the spoils and we're not going to get all the cuck. It's just going to be equal.
Agree. Cool. Next question.
Next question. Really zipping through these, huh? Debunking myths about being a writer. Being an author is glamorous. Life just unfolds after you're published and you've basically made it. That is your experience, in fairness, isn't that right?
I don't think that is not true at all. In fact, my experience has been completely the opposite. And I'm glad for it, because I didn't want that to be my experience.
Don't lie, man.
Not lying. Why you lying? No, I think that is a myth, especially in these days and times where it's funny because it's a contradiction, because on the one hand, I think we live in a time where being published and being a writer is completely accessible, which is very good.
It?
Yeah, I think
Is
so.
it?
Yeah, I think anyone can be a writer.
And published
Yes.
by one of the very few publishing houses in South Africa who publish.
Naspers and Media 24 is a conglomerate, and they own about 20, if not more. So it isn't that, there aren't actually that few, there are quite a lot. And I do believe that anyone can be a writer. We see, people coming out with books all the time, and I think that's a good thing on the one hand. On the other hand, it does affect quality of content, I feel. But coming back to like the misconception about the celebrity thing, I do think that we live in a time where a lot of people want to be writers because they think it comes with a lot of popularity? Put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Do you know what, though?
Not everything I say is Model C, eh?
I do feel that of all the forms of celebrity, like film star celebrity, politician celebrity, reality TV star celebrity, writer celebrity, in the way that it could be in a dream world, is one of the best forms of celebrity, because you're not well known enough to be recognized.
Yeah,
but
unless your face is pasted on a book.
Unless your face, I can't even think of who that would apply to in modern publishing.
me
Maybe
neither.
Zadie Smith.
Yeah,
because
agree.
she's got a beautiful face.
Yeah, other people
Beautiful.
don't, and it's unfortunate.
But you still perhaps get access to awesome opportunities without without the pain of being like followed down the street.
That's what's appealing.
But it doesn't happen anyway.
This is what I'm saying. And also, I don't think people want it to happen. I think we live in a time now of like, I mean, this is going to sound like such an archaic and obvious thing to say, but of Instagram and like social media and like whatever the case is, where people actually don't want to be the writers that are potentially unliked or awkward or introverted. They want to do it because it presents them with more opportunities to kind of like be out there and more reasons to have like some kind of like substantial marketing resources to an extent, like hashtag academic bay or like hashtag writer professor. I don't know what the hashtags are, but you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. So I think times are changing, and to an extent like there is some truth behind the myth, but subjectively for me, there isn't, but it's because I have agency over that and I don't want it to be.
Well, I just feel like the idea, what does it say? Life unfolds after you publish. Well, let's go through it. You publish a book, and then the first thing you have to do is you have to market it.
Right.
And a lot of writers are actually devastatingly socially inept, extremely awkward, just like not fit for company, basically.
Yeah.
Not fit for human society. And then they have to go on this, just performing.
Well, a lot of people who love doing that kind of thing, in my opinion, aren't fit for human society either.
Also true. But writers in particular are not often, or are sometimes.
I think aren't supposed to be, according to like the stereotype.
But also in reality are not. And
Yeah.
they have to go out there and market their book in a way that, I mean, a lot of them find very uncomfortable. I don't love it. Personally, I'm sure you don't love it either. And you have to you're expected because of social media to do this relentless self-promotional churn where you're constantly tweeting about your book and retweeting every compliment you get. You're big on that. And, it gets a bit much.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as big as you with like your 60,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
putting
we
it out
can't
there.
all be as good. I don't know what to say. Lock me up and take me
I
away.
think that's true, but I don't think, I think as awkward as writers are about promotion and doing book launches, and the means of that has changed with like social media. I think in, previous times when people used to ride horses and carts or whatever, they had to do it a lot more. They had to be out there a lot more.
Disagree. Back in the day, you could be a J.D. Salinger. Admittedly, this always applied more to male authors. And you could just, sit in your attic churning out manuscripts, and no one ever was like, hey, J.D., get down to the book lounge.
If you so chose, and that was great because it was an option, and I would love that to be an option. But at the end of the day, you got to put like bread on the table. In my case, white bread, because I prefer it. It's soft and pillowy.
Like my skin.
And your ass.
Debunking myths about being a woman writer.
Can you stop saying that?
Women writers are generally cray-cray or just miserable. True fact.
No, please.
Debunk it.
Please elaborate.
Women writers are cray-cray or just miserable. Look, I gotta be honest. I do know a bunch of writers who aren't perhaps the most stable of human individuals. If you had to take like a general mental health barometer of a whole profession, I'd say that writers perhaps would not be the peak of health. But that applies to male writers more than women writers, to be frank, because male writers tend to have this toxic combination of extremely fragile egos mixed with, a lot of narcissism and entitlement, and it all mixes up to devastating effect. Women writers, I think, tend to be a lot more grateful. And I know that also sounds like a sexist stereotype in itself, but I think that as women, we're just not socialized to expect the applause and appreciation that male writers take as their birthright.
I do think we need to start moving away from that. Like, I think the pattern has sort of been cast by men because they're so insecure and so fragile, and they need like their ego stroked like the whole time. And I mean, we know people like this where like you constantly have to like tell them how great they are, even if they're writing about their mother's kettle or whatever. Specifically now I speak as like, a brown woman and someone who's just released a book or whatever. I think we need to move away, or I would like to, and I think I have done to an extent, move away from this idea that I need to be liked. Especially because some of the things I say and some of the things I write, like, I don't feel like I have to be liked.
Yeah, but that's rare for a woman, also because women do, in the real world, practically, objectively face greater backlash for opinions.
Agree. Especially, again, brown woman. But I think,
You know,
yeah,
it comes down to this whole Shashi Naidu thing. I feel for that woman.
Does it?
Old Shashi just cut and paste some bullshit about Israel onto Facebook or whatever because she's trying to seem clever. And then the whole world just piles on and now she has to go to Palestine with BDS. Then Israel bans her. Meanwhile, you got Gareth Cliff, you got Black Coffee. They're out here saying whatever the hell they want, ill-informed bullshit about Israel and Palestine. And everyone's like, oh, okay, cool, move on. Move on. But she, as a woman, is expected to like prostrate herself, to apologize, this ritual humiliation. And that is, I think, a microcosm of what happens for women who express strong opinions versus what happens to men. So if women writers are cray-cray or miserable, frankly, they have every reason to be, because they can expect much greater societal pushback.
I think there is like a healthy degree of cray-cray that's necessary to be a writer, else it's just so cuck boring.
Don't you think that's just feeding into that myth about, you know, how you have to be depressed to create great art?
No, I mean, I don't mean it, I guess I don't mean it in that strongly a way, but like, I think whether like the norms and standards are like, they fit into that or not, whether they break the mold, I do think that there is a certain amount of, you know, like you have to be on the fringe a little bit and like have an interesting opinion, and it can't be forced. And so there is some kind of organic, I think, existential, intellectual, like mental thing that happens in order to do that. I mean, most of my favorite writers are not all that well, like Carrie Fisher, for example.
I think also that if you're a writer and you don't experience a certain amount of turmoil during the writing process, if you don't hate it, if you don't hate yourself,
yeah, and if you
then
don't have
something's not going
questions,
wrong.
and yeah,
Then something's going wrong. Because if you have that level of certainty about what you're doing, then I think probably you're not doing it that well. I don't know anyone who's serious about writing and is serious about expressing a certain kind of truth.
Yeah.
Who doesn't.
I mean, each page can't be like, you know, a public wank session when it's just like, oh, I love my work, it's so amazing. Like, I think you do have to, like, honestly be willing to, like, scratch it out and start again, because there is an amount of, like, shame and, like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of like an anti-self-help.
How would you know? You don't know anything about it.
I know, but I'm sure you have a wonderful wife who did all these crazy experiments with you, which you did not enjoy at all because they were hashtag white people things.
That wife sounds great.
No, she's
Wish
amazing.
she was here.
I've heard of her.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to be bringing to the festival, and I can't wait